Sometimes I can be a little slow on the uptake. I remember I was in high school the first time it dawned on me that many of these guys who play football in the NFL actually have college degrees. In fact, most of them have college degrees, and some of them from pretty significant schools, not your local Tarrant County Community College. Not there's anything wrong with community colleges, but that's not usually where people get drafted into the pros from. The first time it dawned on me that Troy Aikman was a smart guy, not just because he could play quarterback, which is a very diverse role. It requires understanding the movement of a lot of different pieces, but also that he had a significant education on top of that. The first time that dawned on me, it was a significant revelation in my life. To realize how much you gotta know just to do the job of getting hit while throwing a football. When I thought back to my days in playing football, and I thought about all the times that all I had to remember was that based on the number, I knew where the runner was going and whether I was supposed to block forward, block left, block right, or pull. That was it. I was a lineman. That's all I had to do. Block left, block right, or pull. Not complicated instructions. You don't have to have a Harvard degree to do that role. But there was also something about the idea that every role on the basketball court, every role on the hockey rink, every role on the soccer field, every role on the baseball diamond had to have a specific knowledge and ability of their role, but also something outside of their role. And what really never came into play was what they looked like playing that role. It really wasn't about what they looked like. It was about what they knew, what they understood, and how they thought. I think that really is a key to diversity. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. And all the years that I've been studying leadership since I was in the Air Force, and all the way up to today, almost 30 years now altogether. With the 10-ish years of serious focus on leadership, and the last 15 seriously focused on personal growth and how to help people grow from where they are to where they need to be, I've discovered that there's a lot less to do with how people look, or even where they come from. And I mean that where they come from in town, where they come from in the state, where they come from in the country, or even around the world. There's less to do with that and more to do with how they think, those base thoughts, when it comes to their ability and their potential to move toward success. In fact, I find that there are people who might look much more like me, but are stuck in thinking that is not only outdated, but it's ignorant, it's uninformed. It's not thinking that's forward moving, that's filled with potential. It's not thinking that's filled with possibility. It's thinking that says, well, it can't be done. I mean, imagine if we looked back over all the solutions that we've created throughout the generations of human history and said, well, only the solutions that come from this type of person or this group of person, whether that categorization is from the kind of school that they went to or the part of town that they grew up in or the color of their skin or the nature of their hair. If those were the things that we used to decide whether or not somebody's ideas were valuable, we'd be in trouble. Well, look at all the inventions of George Washington Carver. Look at all the inventions that have come from all around the world, Nobel Peace Prize winners from all over the world. I mean, nobody would have thought that a bicycle company would create the first flying craft. But it took diversity of thought, not diversity of look, to achieve that. And I'm not saying that somebody with a different look couldn't have accomplished the same thing. All I'm saying is that it was diversity of thought that brought about that change. I think when we find ourselves as leaders looking into an organization or looking over our own organizations and we think to ourselves, what if we brought in more people who don't look the same, don't act the same, but they all think the same? Would we accomplish more or would we accomplish less? I think we would accomplish less. Diversity for diversity's sake that doesn't enhance the thinking field, I don't think accomplishes anything. Now, sure, there's a great reason and there's great application to have people at the table who've never been exposed to that kind of thinking. And when I say thinking, I mean brainstorming, coming up with new ideas, where everybody throws their ideas on the table, like we talked about on the last session. And they throw their ideas out so that everybody else can poke at them and go, well, here's why I don't think that'll work, and here's why I don't think that'll work, and here's why I don't think that'll work. And I'm reminded of a silly movie called My Cousin Vinny. Anybody remember My Cousin Vinny? I remember when the defense attorney was attacking the witness, and he asked a series of questions about a car. And, the first question was, is this witness even credible on this subject matter? And so the question that was asked was kind of a got you question, a trap question. But only if you were a real expert in the field would you know that the question was a trap. See, when the actress playing the role played it so well, he asked her, what's the timing of XYZ engine? And she waited for a minute. She said, I can't answer the question. He said, well, then I guess you're not an expert. She said, no. The reason I can't answer the question is because the year that you mentioned of that car didn't have that kind of motor. In fact, that motor wasn't available in that car until this year. But if you were asking about that car in this year with that motor, then the timing would be this. And she proved her expertise. She did not look like an auto mechanic. She did not look like the person you would expect to be thinking that way. And that's where I think we find ourselves trapped. If we expect, based on looks or background or the way that someone talks, that they're going to have an expertise in a certain thing, then we find ourselves trapped because we're not asking, what is it that you're capable of thinking of? We trap ourselves based on looks and looks alone. I don't believe that diversity of looks is a solution to a problem, but I do believe diversity of thought is a solution to a lot of problems. The willingness for all of us to step back and go, I didn't realize you had such a depth of understanding. I didn't realize that you had studied that field for so long. And as leaders, especially managers, we often get trapped in the idea. We bring in a new employee, for an example, and we think to ourselves, well, they've only been on the job for 2 weeks. And something in our mind equates that they've been here for 2 weeks with they're new to everything. And that's simply not the case. In fact, a lot of times we hire someone who may be new to the organization, but they've got a wealth of knowledge from outside. They've got a depth of understanding we could never possibly imagine. They've been there. They've done some things. I love the insurance company that says, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. I think that's true of everybody. What we've seen and where we've been and what we've done doesn't always match the way we look. Those experiences bring knowledge and wisdom and depth to who we are. When I thought all athletes are basically like I was, just a big dumb blocking dummy, my job was block left, block right, and sometimes pull. That was it. But when you think about the knowledge and the wisdom and the expertise as you go not only from one grade level to the next, but into the pros, and then realize that most of those pros have college degrees as well, these are not narrow-minded people. These are people with a broad diversity of information and knowledge and wisdom. I believe as we find ourselves leading organizations, training people, encouraging people, adding value to people, the greatest thing we can do for them is to encourage diversity of thought, not necessarily diversity of look, but to really focus on diversity of thought, to give everybody's thoughts a chance to be aired, everybody's ideas a chance to be considered, everybody's opinions at least a moment in the sunlight to be revealed. Like I said before, sometimes you'll throw that idea out there yourself and then realize, wow, that was a really dumb idea. I didn't realize how dumb it was until I said it, but now that I've said it, never mind that one, forget that one. I've done it myself. If you haven't done it, maybe it's because you haven't taken an honest look at your own ideas. Maybe it's because you just want to think like everybody else, and maybe it's just because you've never expressed your ideas. I am convinced that in the workplace, in relationships, in families, in any source of community, we should be more worried about diversity of thought than diversity of look. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.